Hey guys, welcome back to Collingwood Connection. I'm Will, and this is the review episode of the Sydney v Collingwood game that was back on Friday night. Unfortunately, the Swans prevailed 11-15-81 to Collingwood 10-15-75. It was very close, but no cigar. Fossil, before we get into it, welcome, and how you going today?
Yeah, thanks, Weaver. Yeah, not too bad. Well, yeah, it's a bit chilly today. Well, we're getting a bit of rain down here, but yeah, unfortunately, we just couldn't get, quietly across the line. But anyway, it was just one of those games could have gone either way. But your first thoughts on the game, Will?
Yeah, I thought I'd just start off one this week. I'm going to call it positive pies because as you know, Fossil, we're not the most liked club in the league, but I've also heard a lot of negative things from Pie supporters. We got to stick together. This is all about side by side. But I just wanted to say, let's just give some credit here, considering that it's already a negative once you have a loss on the board, especially when you're so close, everyone's a bit disappointed. But just as Pies fans, that it's very frustrating, and you can be either frustrated that we didn't get the job done, or you can be happy about the gallant sort of effort. So I'm definitely on the latter side there. And as Collingwood supporters, like I said, we just got to stick together because we're the most hated team. That's stating the obvious, but we're the Sea Eagles of the NRL. We're the Philadelphia Eagles of the NFL. Funny, it's not the West Coast Eagles, but we're going to be hated. We're going to be smashed. We know the media are just going to have a storm. Whether we win or lose, it doesn't matter. They always are talking, about Collingwood, or they're trying to make a story like that dickhead Kane Corns. But I just think that in the week coming up, we should get behind the boys. We should let's own it. Let's celebrate it, Fossil, because Pendlebury's breaking the record. Obviously, a lot of talk about that. And look, if they don't rest a 38-year-old, he's not going to be getting 43 possessions and kicking 2 goals on Anzac Day. And he's had a couple of good performances this year. So let's not get dragged into that negative stuff that every other side wants us to do. And just regardless, Fly, he's always got the boys up and about. Last week we had 8 players with 20 games or less. So you want to talk about inexperience in a very experienced squad that we have. And we should just get behind him. Whether we're favourites or underdogs, he's got the same mentality. He just wants to be better. And for all I care, Fossil, they can all get stuffed, the rest of them. So just wanted to say that. And forever, we are side by side and go Pies. So Fossil,
Yeah,
take us
yeah,
through
no,
your take us through your
no,
first thoughts on that
no,
one.
no, that was well said. But yeah, we got to be positive. Like we're all disappointed. We could have won the game and a couple of other games. But like you said, whatever we say now, it's not going to change it. So I think we've got to be positive. We've got young kids coming through, and it is Pendle's week. This is not going to happen very often. So I think we should be all very supportive of the coach. The team, and then hopefully they can put on a good show next week for Pendles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's all been teed up. I'll go through the first quarter then, Fossil. The exact start we wanted, away against the top of the ladder side, and it started off really well with a nice contested grab by Westy, your boy, who's playing his second game, Fossil, mind you, but 45 meters out on the boundary line, he absolutely flushed it. So couldn't have asked for a better start, and just by all the boys, really, the pressure was up and about, which led to some chances up forward. And, at one point it looked like it was one of those weeks where we were dominating the inside 50s, but Schultze got on the end of a beautiful pass from Nick Dacos and kicked our second goal. So the boys were up and about, and the little master himself, that first quarter, 8 touches, 2 goals, and that goal assist. So he was absolutely flying for us. And I think he played a bit more as a forward, as we saw during the night. That's Collingwood's way of resting him without either letting him, be out completely for the game or rotating him through half back. They actually put him up forward, and he was our designated full forward. And sometimes they're just going to have to do that. He's pretty dangerous, as he showed in that first quarter. And Steen, well, we know what happened in that second quarter, unfortunately, but he competed very well early until Grundy kicked that late goal, which was unfortunate. But as we know, Grundy is one of the elite ruckmen in the competition, and great start, great intensity by the Pies, and we were up at quarter time, 5-2 32 to 1-4 10. A pretty nice start, Fossil.
Yeah, no, it was a great start, Will, but unfortunately, I don't know what they did at quarter time, Will. I think they must have changed their boots, mate, because the second quarter, 1 goal, 7, Will, we should have been further in front, and they could have nearly put the game out of Sydney's reach. But bad kicking's bad football, but I thought the back line played very well again. We were keeping the 3 goals to 1 goal four was a very good effort. And when it did start to drizzle, I noticed that the Collingwood defenders were playing in front, Will, and that's a big thing you to do when it's wet. Get in front. They marked the ball very well. Their ball use was very good, and also thought that the young fellas they all did their little bits. Will they weren't big stats, but Long, Steele, Anderson, Alan Hayes. It's good to see him coming through, and they all did their little bits and pieces to help the team. They didn't have big numbers, but they did their job. But if we got back to our bad habits here, though, Will, it was a low scoring second quarter, mate, and a couple of really bad turnovers. And they only kicked 2 goals too, but yeah, which wasn't real good. But they tried their best, but Sydney, they just keep at you, keep at you, and keep at you, and again for these good sides, William, when you got the momentum, we've got to put the score on the board because we could have been a lot further in front, but we kicked 1-7 to 2-2.
Yeah, it was it could have been anything that quarter. Just the behind seemed to, keep piling up, and then it becomes infectious, unfortunately. And we've seen enough of that. And onto the premiership quarter. It was nice to have a little buffer. It should have been more at half time, but started off with Parker making a very silly mistake. He tried to spin out of trouble, but he had two Swans coming at him. And I know it's not ideal, but sometimes you just got to try and get the ball forward, just slam it on the boot. I know, yeah, rather than turn it over at the, 55 meters out from their goal, and Blakey went on to kick it. So 14 points up now after all our dominance. We were only just in front, and I know the conditions don't help, but we kept butchering the ball, like you said. Buller and Hayes missed a couple of gettable goals, and yeah, we were 6-12 at that point, and that was after being 5-2 at quarter time, so 1 goal 10, and that included 8 consecutive behind. So they really shot themselves in the foot, and everything went from bad to worse when Steam went down. That knee buckled, unfortunately. As we know now, it's a full rupture, and he's going to be out for 12 months. So really sad news, and we know he's competitive and he'll get back out there and do everything he can, but just he's been such a shining light so far this season. So really unfortunate, and that made Ned Long go in the ruck. I'm sure he didn't enjoy going up against Grundy, but he tried his best. Is what can you do against a elite ruckman in the game? And then Papley, your mate, kicked the goal out of his ass and got them back within just 10 points. So we're really trying to hold on at this point, but we got a bit of a flurry of goals. McStay got on the end of a nice kick in by Allen, and just I thought he needed it first. Fossil, he toe poked it through, so that put us up by 16. And then Hayes swooped on one. Ned Long, he caught the guy holding the ball, and for whatever reason, the umpire didn't blow the whistle. But Hayes swooped in and kicked a goal, and we went up by 22. And at this point, McStay's in the ruck against Grundy, so they're trying everything to negate him. I will talk about Houston in my negatives. I don't like to usually do single players, but I'm just going to hold fire for a second with Dan Houston. But Buller was tackled without the footy about 70 out from Sydney goal, and then they go down forward and kick a goal through Warner. So yeah, unfortunately, they just went bang bang. It was Logan McDonald after that, and they got back to that 10 points. The defenders were absolutely under siege, 18-7 inside 50s at this point, and luckily a miss. We seem to give away a few red time goals at the moment. Fossil, I think it was McInerney, yeah, got caught high by IQ, and he missed. So we go down in the last break. We're 1 goal down, 9-12-66 to the Pies, 8-12-60.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, we were just hanging in there, William, and like Collingwood, they were trying hard, but at the start of the last quarter, both defences were working overtime. The ball was just pinging backwards and forwards. But our biggest problem is, like you said, well, with Steen going down, we didn't have a really big key target. Like you said, Long was in the ruck. I think McStay went in there for a while. Boring looked like he was out on his feet a little bit, and Westy unfortunately couldn't get into it, but. You're playing against one of the best ruckmen in the league, 46 hit-outs. Well, it gives the Swans a big advantage. But I just thought that field kicking dropped off a little bit too. We had a couple of chances there. There was players streaming down, whether they didn't see him, they went left instead of right. There at one stage, I think nobody was near him, but they just didn't see him. And it can make all the difference when you only go down by 6 points. But I thought Anderson and Steele worked hard. for their possessions and still covered a fair bit of ground. I think he's covered about 17 and a half Ks, Will. So he's run nearly half a
He's a runner.
marathon,
He's a
nearly got
runner.
half a marathon. But you know, but they were still in the game, but just unfortunately, we just couldn't get a couple of quick goals in a row with them. We went down by the single goal, but it's very frustrating, Will, because when you look back, I think we're on 18 points. And the draw and maybe that one, and I think one earlier we dropped. We could have been 10 points. Will we could have been fighting out for third, fourth, and fifth position. Now they've got to try and string 3 or 4 wins together. Or else we're going to be find it very hard to get back into the fight. But I'm sure the boys will give it their best shot next week, and hopefully they can win 3 or 4 together.
Yeah, exactly. We'll touch on the draw coming up later in the episode, but yeah, the negatives, like I touched on, and like I said, I don't like to point at individual players, but I think that one of your senior heads and getting paid a lot of money in Dan Houston after quarter time, he just lost his head, Fossil, in the third quarter alone, and yeah, it can be the difference in the game. 2 weeks running that premiership quarter, but Logan McDonald. This is when we're up by 22, and yeah, Logan McDonald kicked a goal. Houston was going back with a flight, and you want to make an example for all the young players out there. You've got to just you bite the bullet and jump at the footy, try and spoil it. He had to do something more than just running back with a flight, and he pulled out of the contest, which McDonald Howe was trying his best to stop Logan from marking it, and he didn't. He fumbled it, and had enough time though. It is probably the most disappointing part to turn around and snap the goal his own. And Houston didn't get within a couple of meters of him. Anyone can go back and watch that, but it was very disappointing because that just wrestled back the momentum to Sydney's way, and then we end up losing by a goal. So it's all those little things that make a difference. And I just think his confidence is shot because he had another fumble later in the quarter, which led to a Sydney shot on goal, and luckily they didn't kick that one. And then I think the last play of the game really typified it. I know it's critical to say that one play, but he could have easily, if he had just gone with his gut and just hand passed it out in front of McCreary, there's 18 seconds to go. He might have enough chance to kick a goal, but he's caught in two minds and gets caught holding the ball, and there's a game. So it's not one player's fault, but a lot of frustrating signs, especially I think he ended up with only 17 touches and not much impact on the game. And it was a game where the ball, like you said, was going back and forth. So you need your best ball users and your senior players, especially with the inexperienced side, to really take control. And yeah, Houston we just had one of those nights. So I'm hoping he can bounce back, but it was pretty disappointing. And hopefully you can find some positives there, Fossil.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment, Will. Yeah, because the young guys do look up to these senior players, to show them the way, and if they see a couple of things there that aren't good for the side, well, it doesn't help them much. But yeah, just hopefully you can turn it around next week, Will, because you had been in good form prior to the Sydney game, and hopefully you can turn it around and have a big one next week. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go with the selection too, Will. But yeah, no, good point.
Positives, Fossil. Positives.
Mm.
Due.
Positives.
Positives. Fossil.
Yeah, yeah. I got
Go.
the young ones. Yeah, William, the young ones in the side. Hopefully they'll keep playing them. But I think with the ins next week, I don't know how it's going to work. But it's just good to see the young kids, and I think it injects a bit of pace into the side. A bit of enthusiasm. So hopefully they can stick with the young boys, and they can all keep playing next week. Get 3 or 4 games in a row. We'll get their confidence up, and I'm sure it's going to help the side.
Exactly. All right, Fossil. Pat on the back. Who's your pat on the back this week?
Now pat on the back. I think I won't say Quanaro. I think William. I thought him and the back line was very good, but Quanaro just turns up each week, and like you said, he plays above his weight sometimes, but he just gives 100%. Will uses the ball fairly well, and he's a good mark, and I think he deserves a pat on this week, William, because I reckon he really tried his guts out.
Yeah, IQ. He's had a great year. He's really should be in All Australian squad conversation. That's how good of a year he's had. But if he keeps going from here, he might just find his way in. So mine pat on the back is for Ed Allen. He's been under a lot of pressure, but been playing very well in the VFL. So 17 touches, 6 tackles, and 5 clearances. He, like I said, has been dominating at the lower level, but it's good to see him get his chance at the top level and kept his head, I think, really well in a game that was hard conditions and very tricky for a player to just come into the side and try and perform. So I hope they do keep him in next week. Even with a host of players to return, I'm predicting about five changes for Pendle's big game and against West Coast. It's an important game for the Pies because we've got to get that win on the board too. It will do his confidence a world of good, and maybe he can show us why he was that first round pick in 2022. And just a really quick side question in Fossil that the WA clubs are looking, especially West Coast. We know they're going to have the draft picks and the money and everything to throw at him because he's from there. So, and I think he might be going, in my opinion. He might just say, I want to go back and play in my home state, and players do a lot these days. So, is there any harm in playing Allen for the rest of the season or for majority of the games from a trade point of view that it's like fattening up the pig to go to market, if you know what I mean. We get some games into him, and then if he starts to go to more levels, it might just give us more trade capital to if he does want to go and request it. That I don't want to lose him personally. I hope he does sign on and can develop. But do you think that's worth a shot going towards the end of the season?
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. Well, I think no, I'd be playing him. Like if he deserves a game, I'd play him. And like you said, if he plays well and gets better and better, better, and he wants to go, well, then we might get something for him. But he might want to stay too. Well, like he might look at the list and say, right, hey, there's three or four going this year. He might want to stay at Collingwood. He might want to play in front of the big crowds. I don't know. But if he deserves his chance, I'll be still playing him. I just wouldn't be dropping him because he might be going because you just don't know. So I would play him on his merits. If he deserves a game, give him a game. If he deserves to be dropped, you drop him like all the other players on the list.
That's fair enough. Maybe they'll wait until the last 4 to 6 weeks to see how the season's going. If it's not going so well, then they might chuck him in and, like I said, fatten him up a bit for the market. So anyway,
Yeah.
the Colin Connection Player of the Year votes this week. I'll kick it off. Fossil. I've given one to Nick Dacos. Was at his best early in the game and dealing with a hard tag. So obviously other players get off the chain if Dacos is the one they're always focusing on, but kicked 2 goals early and showed some nice polish when it mattered. So, yeah, well done there to Nick. I still think he had 20, 29 touches, whatever it is. So when he has a quiet game, he's having a fairly good game by anyone else's standards. Jeremy Howe, undersized, but shutting down heaps of those aerial contests and also did a lot of ground ball work in the slippery conditions. So, no, he's for a veteran, I tell you what, he's performing above and beyond at the moment. And someone who definitely needs the praise is Billy Frampton. He was huge all night. Fossil on occasion was 2v1, and I think because the other player was either at the front of the ball or caught behind, and he waited until his timing has been absolutely elite this year. He waited until the ball was almost marked, and then he run up and punch. I think he got Amadi a few times. He just wouldn't let them get the ball, and yeah, I tell you what, if we had another Billy Frampton, that would be very handy right now. And to me, I know I said this about Quaynar. He should be in the All Australian conversation. Fossil, he's got a lot of knocks his whole career, but yeah, he's absolutely flying right now. Billy, what's your 3, 2, 1, Fossil?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry about Billy, but I just couldn't get him in the votes. I gave one to Jeremy Howe, as you said, William, like he's been competing well in the air and on the ground and bringing other players into the game. I gave two to Maynard. He's just so tough and strong at the ball, and I'm sure he gives the other players around him a good lift. And Connor, 3 votes, William. I thought he was very good again, and like you said, he'd have to be in contention for All Australian. He's just playing so consistently each week, and he uses the ball well and kicks it long. So 3 to Connor, two to Maynard, one to Howe.
It's fair calls there, Fossil. The defenders really ate up the votes this week, and hopefully next week it's a bit of even spread. But the season leaderboard so far: Nick Dacos on 30, Houston's on 19, and Maynard's on 12. So obviously, little Nick's going to be hard to catch. He's had a great year so far, and hopefully keeps going. The game day prediction results. So no cigar, unfortunately, guys. We had a few people get 2 goals, but. The disposals were, 5, 6 off either way, so it wasn't very close. But that just means it goes up to $80 for that big game next week against the Eagles. Hopefully 90,000 plus at the MCG, but it's free, guys. So follow our Facebook page, Flag Pies, and that's where you'll get the competition updates each week, and also find some links to our videos. Remember to like and subscribe. And like I said, send in the messages, send in your content. We'd love to hear from all the Pies fans. And if you're not a Pies fan, I don't care. You can jump on as well and give us your opinion, as a lot of people do about the Pies fossil, either way. So. All right, and last thing to finish off, Fossil, I thought about the mid-season draft that's coming up. Looks like we'll have two picks to use for McInnes and Steen, unfortunately, going down with season-ending injuries. But yeah, so they'll be on the long-term injury list. But one spot I think should be taken is Brent Teakle, our VFL ruckman. He has obviously been an assistant before. He was drafted from North Melbourne when I think Collingwood were looking at him, but we went in a different direction, or North might have swooped in and got him a couple of years ago. But the Pies, he's been playing fairly well, but he's that big body that I think that Cameron needs to support him for the rest of the season just to get through. He might not play every week, but it did look a bit out of touch with Buller and McStay and even chucking Ned Long in there. So I think that Brent Teakle should get his second chance at AFL. And the other pick, Fossil, what type of player do you reckon we should go for? Should it be for the here and now, or do you think it should be a future prospect?
Well, if we can find a key forward, we really don't have any good ones that can stay at
uh,
home and mark in the square. That'd be beautiful because,
I,
like you said, it just threw them out completely. But I agree with the ruckman. Give Cameron a chop out, and then it can keep McStay, West, and whoever else is down there, Buller, back in the square. But that's where we're missing big time. But so I don't know whether there's anybody available, Will, but maybe a ruckman and a strong marking key forward would be beautiful.
we did. His name was Archer May, and your favourite team, the Bombers, swooped on him. So I think we ended up with Rowan Steele. So I'm not going to complain too much. But Archer May seems to be doing fairly well there at the Bombers. So hopefully we can find another one of those. Fossil, they had their eye on him, but unfortunately that's not how the draft system works. So anyway, in our next five games, like we touched on, so West Coast. Look, I'm going to put us down for at least four wins. We're going to have to if we're going to be any chance to keep momentum. But if we want to get on a real roll here, we've got three games before that bye, and then we start off with Port Adelaide at home and Richmond. So all the games are in Melbourne. So I think that this is the opportunity right now where the season rests is we've got West Coast, the Bulldogs, Melbourne, Port, and Richmond. They're all winnable games, and I just think the Pies, if they're really genuine and if they play like they did against Sydney and Hawthorn, we had a bit of a mulligan against Geelong. But if they play like that, Fossil, there's really no reason. The Bulldogs are underdone. Melbourne in that, those five games are going to be the hardest ones to beat. But I just think that if we are genuine and are serious, we got to win four. But I'd be going for all five wins there.
You're spot on, Will. And it wasn't a bad effort either because remember, Sydney was the top side. We're playing them up there. We had three or four that can come back into the side and hopefully make it stronger. So, it wasn't too bad. It's just that they had their chances. And like I said earlier, there's 10 points here that's gone big, and it can make a big difference because the season's going to be pretty tight, I think, towards the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll get to that midpoint of the season, Fossil, and then we'll really find out, if we can be square of the ledger. But I think we need to be in front because we obviously have a tougher run going home. So, anyway, guys, that's it for this week, and we'll be previewing that big game, West Coast. So, first of all, the Pies to get the job done, and obviously we will celebrate Scott Pendlebury. It's an absolute awesome achievement, and hopefully, you can go for a few more seasons, Fossil, and make it to Big 500. That'd be pretty nice to see. So, until then, go Pies, guys, and cheers, Fossil. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks, Will. Go Pies and have a big week.
Go Pies. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.